And who am I? That's not a secret I'll never tell. You know you love me. XOXO. Gossip Girl.
What's up? We got Gossip Girl, Season 3, Episode 12, The Departed. This episode starts off with Serena and Tripp driving along a dark road while it's raining. Tripp tries to talk to Serena, but she ignores him and tells him that he isn't who she thought he was. He tells her that he can't stay in silence because he loves her. He explains that everything is ruined, and then cries out and tells him to watch the road when she sees a pack of animals on the road. Tripp surfs the car to avoid them and runs into a fence, crashing the car. Time to jump back to 12 hours prior it's one of those episodes where you are being like, what happened? Time to find out. This episode at the Empire. Boy Brant tries to make truck breakfast in bed, but he brushes her off. She tells him that he knows what day it is and he doesn't want to have to pretend to be fine. He doesn't have to pretend to be fine. Chuck complies, same as any other day, and he has work to do. She follows him to the elevator, saying that she's coming because she canceled her whole day to spend it with him. After Vanderwood's, Lily's cleaning up the closet for the third time since Thanksgiving. Rufus asks if she's going to co-op meeting. We know she's looking for the letter that she doesn't know that Marine took, mistaking Lily's jacket for her own. Yeah, so Marine currently has that letter. Rufus asks if she's going to the co-op meeting, but asks if her sudden obsession with cleaning has anything to do with Serena. Lily admits that she doesn't want to talk. She won't talk to her and is holed up with a married person, which she approves of. She then asks Rufus if he'll go to a co-op meeting in her place. He agrees to help her out. Meanwhile, at a house owned by the Vanderbilts, Serena learns from Tripp about that his career isn't suffering, but the divorce has to blow up before it blows over. She promises they'll get through it, and they can. After he tells her he's hanging in town to get supplies. Meanwhile, back in Manhattan, Chuck and Blair arrive at a homeless shelter. Chuck is planning to buy. Blair is unhappy, saying that the homeless won't have anywhere to live, and will probably venture out on her own path. He continues to blow her off and begins to head inside, and she blurts out that he should either be at home or laying flowers on Bart's grave, since it's the anniversary of Bart's death, which happened on the 13th episode of last season. He tells her that to take the car home and meet him at the hotel for lunch before getting in the car. She tells him that he is not his father. That he's not his father. After Vanderwood's, Lily's ending her closet hunt in frustration. Tripp calls to meet with him before checking in the building. The ghost of Bart appears before him and tells him he did the right thing. Yeah, weird ghost Bart. Meanwhile, Jenny's friends are awed when she shows up. When she shows up with a designer handbag that has yet to be released. While bragging about it, Sawyer shows up and says that it's the exact one. She explains that her mom bought it for her from Paris, and they should alternate days so they don't have it at the same time. Jane coolly tells her that she has dibs on designer everything, and they are no longer friends, and tells them to get out that she's no longer one of her minions. She turns back to her other friends, and Sawyer walks back where Kira and Eric are waiting for her for a recap. She explains that she was totally humiliated, and Kira tells her that's the point is for Carmen and Jane to abandon Jenny when they see how mean she is. They begin phase 2. At the NYU Cafe, Dan tries to tell Nate that Olivia was right about him loving Vanessa, but now it's too late since she's dating Paul Hoffman. Jane tells him that he is using Paul as an excuse to avoid his feelings and invites him to either tell Vanessa or move on. Vanessa and Willow Weinstein then come in to invite Dan to come with them. Paul to Willa's country house. He's kind of saying he has to work to do and he should stay home. They walk away, and Nate tells them to go or to beat Paul for Vanessa or sleep with Willa. He calls her name, and Dan says that he changed his mind and wants to go, and tells them that they should meet at the dorms that night and he should go and find her. Meanwhile, Rufus arrives at the co-op meet and meets Holland Kemble, played by Lena from the Fosters, or Sherry Song, or Lena from the Lena Adams Foster from the Fosters. Still weird that she's in this show, but this did come out before the Fosters came out. I still love the Fosters. I do. It's one of my favorite shows, but still, along this, but still. Lena explains that, I'm just going to call her Holland, or Lena, who knows. Holland explains that they figured out that he doesn't have a job and would come in a matter of time. He tells her that he isn't a trophy husband, and she admits that her husband left her for her yoga teacher, and they begin their meeting. Back at the house, Serena calls Tripp, wondering where he is, and he tells her he ran into William in town and they have a nice talk. He says she's bored, but she supports him 100%. He thanks her and hangs up and says he'll meet her later. After he goes back to her that night. He hangs up, and after he goes back to where he's talking with Marine. They restate that if they play their cards right, he can keep his career, and Serena, and while she gets to keep their marriage. She asks if she can talk to Serena about a plan alone. And he says yes, and he has until he says yes. Back at the Empire, Ghost Bart tells Chuck that his plans to buy the homeless shelter seem good and like they have a chance to set. Chuck replies that there are a few things to figure out first, and Ghost Bart replies that residents are there are not his concern. He also tells Chuck that he's becoming weak and even softer than he was. Angry, Chuck goes to his room and slams the door. Back at the house, Serena calls Nate to ask if he knows how to restart the heat at the house. He admits he doesn't, and then asks if she's there to do anything. He directs her to the book on the bookshelf where he has some weed hidden inside. Nate asks where Tripp is, and he explains to William and tells her to stay warm. Afterwards, Marine arrives to see Serena and tells her that Tripp told her where she was, and that they aren't getting divorced, and she also plays Serena can have him in private as long as she gets him in public. Serena responds that Tripp wouldn't send her there because he knows she wouldn't agree to it. Marine admits that he was skeptical, but he didn't know that she has a letter from her father, which details the fact that he was with Lily over the summer. Oh, wow. Marine tells her to think about the offer, and luckily that she wasn't forced out of the picture altogether. At Empire, Blair arrives to find Chuck on his bed. She tells him she knows it's hard for him to let his guard down, but he's changed. He replies that he's biting the building and she needs to go home right away. After she's gone, Ghost Bart tells Chuck maybe there's hope for him yet. Meanwhile, Eric tries to convince Carmen and Jane that Jenny is not a good queen, but she appears out of nowhere and gives the girls replica bags. They're happily surprised and thinks suspicious. Eric asks where she got the money, and she doesn't reply and heads off with the girl. At the Vanderwoods, Blair has tea with Lily and asks if she can talk to Chuck in the morning. By the look on her face, it's clear that Lily forgot it was the anniversary of Bart's death. Blair reveals that Chuck has never visited his mother's grave, and Bart wouldn't tell him where she was buried. Lily promises to go see Chuck and talk to him. Meanwhile, Serena calls Nate to vent to him about Marine's visit, and he revealed to her that his grandfather's in Bermuda, and his mother confirmed it. That Tripp is lying to her. After they hang up, Nate asks the driver how long is it until they're in Nassau County. At the NYU dorms, Dan meets with Willa, and she asks him to watch a performance art piece she stars in before they leave. She turns it on, and it turns out to be a video of herself naked and breathing heavily, because she wants to seduce Dan. At the Empire, Olivia has asked Chuck to come to the cemetery with her. He tells her that Bart was the type of person to prefer being but they don't have to be that way. He tells her that the best way to honor his father is to work, but she says it's important for them to go anyway. After her phone rings, she tries to answer it to find Serena on the other end. She tells her that Maureen has the letter from William and is starting to tell Rufus, and that Tripp is lying to her and not replying to her. Lily promises to tell Rufus that, and then they'll fix everything when she returns home. They hang up, and Chuck tells her that she has to go deal with something, but she wants him to say what she said. She leaves, and Chuck throws the flowers she bought in the trash because it's not flowers that Bart liked. At the house, Serena really leaves as Tripp is arriving. She asks him to tell her everything Marie said isn't true, but he stays silent. She begs him to drive her home and let him explain. She says she'll get in the car but won't talk. As they drive, the scene plays back to the accident. After surveying the damage, Tripp sees Serena unconscious with a huge bleeding cut on her face and a shattered windshield where she's hit. He then calls Maureen to ask for help and abandons the scene. Yep, he committed felony hit and run, which, as the Fosters told me, could put you in jail, which is a felony. Which, knowing how Callie got it and she ended up in jail, Tripp should be in juvie. He left from this. He left felony hit and run, and that is an accident. Soon after, Nate drives by and sees the police. He asks the driver to pull over, and he gets out in time to see Serena being put in an ambulance. She asks where Tripp is, and he says Tripp isn't there, and she replies he was driving. Then he calls Tripp and leaves a message saying that he knows what he did, and they need to meet right away or he's telling the cop. After Vanderwooden, Lily is about to tell Rufus about William when she hears the calls from the hospital informing her of the accident. And then when Dan and Will are kissing when he suddenly stops and says it isn't her, but it's him. His phone rings and he quickly leaves to take the call. He then heads to Blair's room to ask her to come to the hospital because of Serena's accident. Venison sees him in the hall. Vanessa sees them in the hall, and Danny tells her to come, and he'll explain why. Meanwhile, Chuck takes Blair's call from the limo, and he tells her he'll be there soon. Ghost Bart appears and tells him not to ruin his deal. Chuck yells at the ghost to leave him alone, then orders the driver to stop looking at him. He first tells the driver to go to the hospital, but then Ghost Bart tells him stuff, so he yells at the driver to stop looking at him and go to the house. Go to the business deal. At the hospital, Nate confronts Tripp about leaving Serena alone, which again is basically felony hit and run. He should be in jail, but I guess he'd have Maureen to pay him off, to pay him out of the jail, but still. Nate confronts Tripp about leaving her alone in the car. He says that he did what he did was unforgivable. And he's telling the cops, and he tells Tripp, what you have changed, bro. You used to be good. You used to be honest, and now you're leaving Serena and then you literally leave Serena alone in a car. What is the matter with you? And then he says he's calling the cops. Maureen comes up and announces she's telling the cops Tripp was with her all night. William has Tripp's back in the case, and she says that that's not only is William really liked by the sheriff's department there, but that Serena's history of drinking and drugs and overall behavior won't help her. She goes back to the car, and Tripp asks to see her, and Nathan punches him and tells him that to never go near Serena again. In her hospital room, Lily apologizes for everything, but Serena asks if Rufus is there. Lily says she had him stay at the apartment to find her insurance papers. She replies that she has her insurance card, and Lily admits she was about to tell him, but the hospital called. She didn't want to bring him into a scene where she doesn't know what to expect. Serena says she needs breath, and Lily leaves the room. Blair enters and then hugs her Serena tells her that she was right, that Blair was right about Tripp, but Blair doesn't reply. Chuck also arrives where he starts having flashbacks the night Bart died. In the flashback, Serena sees him in the hall and tells him to come in the room. He enters and sees Bart hooked up to the machine, and over to the doctor telling Lily sorry he is, and she tells Chuck the doctors did everything they could. Serena asks him to stay, be with him, but he walks out. In the present day, Chuck's overtaken with emotion and sits down on the floor. Bart comes over and sits next to him and asks how Serena is. She replies that she's going to be okay. He reveals that Bart always thought he was weak and that he couldn't have anything to do couldn't be there when he died. Bart tells him that he can handle feelings then, but he's a man in a way that his father never was. They get up and head to the cemetery so Chuck can properly say goodbye. In a flashback, Chuck sees the doctor put a sheet over Bart's body, signifying Bart's death. Meanwhile, Jane and Eric finally make up, and she admits that she set Sawyer up with all the bags. He admits that he listened in on the calls, which she figured is why she set up all the gifts. They call her truth and go get Serena a gift from the gift shop. At the Vanderwoods, Rufus is staying back at the hospital when he runs into Maureen. She gives him the letter from William and says he needs to read it. Back in the hospital, Dan tells Vanessa that he loves her, but she doesn't say anything back. Then says that he probably said it because he's under a lot of intense emotional stress. She goes to see if Serena needs anything and leaves. Later, Lily, Eric, and Jenny arrive home where she finds the apartment empty. She goes to see Leonard on deck. Meanwhile, Rufus and Hall meet at a bar to talk. At the law, Dan arrives home alone. And at the hospital, Serena wakes up to find Nate sleeping in the corner of her room. Back at the Vanderwoods, Jay sneaks out to meet with Damien. They go to do a delivery, and she thanks him for setting her up with the bags. He tells her that she earned the money herself. If she saves them business with him, she'll have enough cash to rule her kingdom forever. At the cemetery, Blair lets Chuck go to the grave alone while she waits in the car. He walks over with his mother's favorite flowers, yellow roses. When he gets closer, he sees a woman standing over there crying. She also left yellow roses. He asks if it's Lily, and the woman turns to him, and it's clear it's not her. She says Chuck, but runs off into the night. Chuck slowly approaches the grave and sees that the woman left behind a locket with one side encrusted with the letter E, and another containing a photo of Bart. And that's where we end this episode and these videos. So, yeah. So, who's that mysterious woman? This is the last appearance of Kira. And this is also Tripp and Serena are finally over. I think this is the last appearance of Tripp. Wait, no, this is not the last appearance of Tripp. This is the last appearance of Marine. Tripp makes other appearances, but Marine's gone. Rufus now knows about Lily, about what happened between Lily and William and their meeting. And her meeting him under the cover of helping Cece. Blair and Serena made up. Dan finally told Vanessa how he felt, but she didn't say anything and made it to believe he was only saying it because of his worriment for Serena. And Nate punched Tripp, which I'm surprised he didn't go to jail. But I guess Maureen and William would probably get him out of it. But why would, yeah. So, yeah. No, I can't Dorado. Why? Why do I got Dorado with this episode? So, yeah. Serena and Tripp are done. Nate and Serena kind of feel like they're kind of building to a romance. And, yeah. Again, they kind of be feeling they're building up to a romance between them. And Jenny's handbags were the two handbags Jenny got were money she got from her drug deal with Damien, and now it seems like she'll be doing more drug deals with the guy. So yeah, Jenny's kind of being a bit sus this season, but Lily's kind of being a little bit sus this season. meeting with Serena's dad, meeting with Serena's dad over the summer. I wonder how the rest of the season's gonna turn out. Next time we got the heart locket. Chuck tries to Blair finds out that Chuck is trying to find more about the woman he saw at the grave, even though she's trying to tell him to forget about her. And yeah. So anyway, that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time for season 3, episode 13, The Heart Locket. But in the Hurt Locket, which is a reference to the Hurt Locker. But anyway, you know you love me. XOXO, Gossip Girl.